Welcome back to our IFTA channel, where we get to interview some of the great speakers that we had at our past IFTA 2020 conference. And I'm joined today with a good industry colleague and friend, Stefano Gianti, Head of Education at Swissquote Bank, but also an IFTA member too. Welcome, Stefano.
Thank you so much, Ron, and thank you for the invite. Hello, everybody.
Now, your presentation was really interesting, and a number of our members were pinging you and us for kind of questions and learning resources. It was on Heikin Ashi, the Japanese technique, charting technique. Could we start there as an opening question? What is Heikin Ashi?
Yeah, Heikin Ashi is, let's say that is a candle, is another way to interpret the price opening, close, high and low. So of course, when it comes to pricing, you have to check the standard chart, like a linear chart or a candlestick or your favorite ones. Heikin Ashi is another interpretation that also highlights important level of support and resistance, and it's an incredible tool to highlight the trend. So I started to use Heikin Ashi times ago. It was 2009, so 12 years ago. Also because I started to trade in 2007, and then I started to work for brokerage and banks in 2010, so 11 years ago. Time passes by, and I was always active with education. I talk with a lot of traders, and what is important for not only newbies, but really for every single trader, is to try to interpret the trend. And for me, Heikin Ashi is, in my opinion, is the best tool available in technical analysis to do this, to stay in favor of the trend.
I mean, it's a trend following technique and allows traders to filter the trend. How would you kind of focus on the key edge, the key trading edge that it gives you and others that use it?
Yeah, it's important to understand that Heikin Ashi in Japanese means average bar. So what Heikin Ashi is doing is to provide a sense of softness to the price movement, a sense of smoothed, and the Heikin Ashi is a sort of typical price. So if there is still a trend, the Heikin Ashi will not change, let's say, the color, because during the presentation of the IFTA conference, I also made an example that is how many times, for example, last year, the Nasdaq index changes the trend on a yearly basis, on a daily chart. And if we use candlestick, we count 94 times. So I mean 94 times the color of the candlestick change over the time. With Heikin Ashi was less than half, 43. And with my favorite version of Heikin Ashi, that is Heikin Ashi smoothed, only 9 times. So with these strategies, last year I made 12 or 13 trades on the Nasdaq, trying to following the trend, always on the market, long or short. So it is a trend follower. And for the Nasdaq, I use the daily chart. For the currencies, for the Forex exchange, usually I use the 4-hour chart.
Okay, so really good at kind of keeping you in the trend and telling you at which point to maybe manage the risk. What was very interesting is in the second half of your discussion, it featured a range of methods. So you gave a nice taste of the variety of ways to use Heikin Ashi. Can you give maybe a few examples for our viewers?
Yeah, the example is. The point is that I want to clarify this, that a lot of traders, a lot of newbies, when they start to trade the market, what they want to trade the reversal. And believe me, I started to trade years ago. We have a lot of experience at IFTA, but me also personally, I work also on the other side, work for different brokerage companies and now bank. Is that the typical error is that traders start to open position when there is overbought conditions. So how many times you open a short position only if we had a very strong momentum, positive momentum on a stock or on a currency. This is one of the most of the biggest error I always see, because makes sense, of course, to try to sell when the price is high, of course, but if there is still momentum, is maybe the big mistake that the trader can do. So what Heikin Ashi is trying to teaching us is that you can try to trade reversal, but only if there is a real signal. So this make really the difference in our trading career.
I mean, the age-old wisdom, the trend is your friend, until signs of a reversal emerge. And that's the key point. Sometimes we're too trigger happy, and we try to be smart at the market extremes, but if it's wrong, it's quite a painful experience.
Yeah, this is really true. You know what we did years ago? We made a statistic on, I remember were quite a lot of trades, around 100,000. And we noticed that, I remember the number, 78% of trades from our clients has been closed with a profit. This does not necessarily mean that all the traders made money on a monthly basis, but it is a normal behavior that a lot of traders close the position with a maybe small profit and let the losses run. What also it is possible to try to do to interpret the price movement in this way with Heikin Ashi is that you try to stay in the trend since there is still a good momentum. So if the trend of the one asset, that could be the Nasdaq, Euro Dollar, or Bitcoin, is still positive, keep your position open. So there are also in technical analysis other interesting indicators like super trend, for example, that can help the trader in order to understand when could be the right moment to close the position, maybe with a trailing stop. Heikin Ashi is a good tool for managing the profitability, because what I always say in my seminars or webinars is that the most complicated thing for a trader is to manage the profits, the profitability, because at the very beginning, maybe we don't use stop losses, but after some trades, we learn that it is important to manage the risk, and we do. Everybody does after a few trades. But closing the position with a profit at the right time is really the most difficult thing in our life of traders.
And what a great lesson, particularly in the bull market that we've seen since the bottom of March 2020. It's such a strong rally driven by FOMO, fear of missing out, central bank liquidity. So the trend really was strong, and it was an important time to manage the risk of the profit, staying in profit. And so maybe this indicator would have been very useful for that.
Absolutely. You use this indicator because one of the common errors of the Heikin Ashi trader can be using this tool in the really short term. You know, a lot of day traders want to make a lot of trades during the day. So if you use Heikin Ashi on a 1 minute, 3 minute, or 5 minute charts, you know, you take quite a lot of false signal. Also because my favorite version of Heikin Ashi, the Heikin Ashi Smoothed, is quite slower in adapting. It's like a sort of pivot point that are adapting candle by candle, just to provide the idea. So if traders start to use Heikin Ashi with standard time frame like daily or 4-hour candles, it really helps a lot. And what I suggest also to people interested in trading, maybe someone watched the video and never started to trade, Heikin Ashi, for example, is one of the best tools to use when you really start your trading adventure.
Right, so good for the conditioning for the first-time trader, and to maybe enforce the discipline of following the trend. And I was just thinking, your point about long-term versus short-term, there was an interesting kind of mosaic heat map that you showed of multi-timeframe analysis using this indicator.
Yeah, multi-time frame approach is important if you want to be sure that you are on the right side of the market. Because of course, there is a lot of noise in the market. We know that more than 60% of the time, the price of one underlying is moving sideways, and the trend is only in 30%, 40% of the time, according to the product, according to the different market conditions that we can have. But trying to, for example, if you already trade 1 hour chart, for example, you open a long position only if the daily Heikin Ashi is bullish. So in this way, you are opening a position in favor of the major trend. This is the multi-time frame approach. And for me, the multi-time frame is the best filter a trader can use, because as a trader, as a technical analyst, a lot of times we have charts with different indicators, different oscillator, and can be complicated to match all the indication provided. So just Heikin Ashi and eventually multi-time frame approach could be a good way to start. And I really suggest to use the multi-time frame approach above all if you want to do day trading. So if you want to use 30 minutes of 1 hour charts to place your trades, to be sure to be on the right side of the main trend.
Okay. And how about portfolio analysis? Is this something that can be applied across asset classes and maybe on a more active or strategic basis?
Absolutely. For portfolio analysis, the multi-time frame approach, for example, is already important. I trade mostly currencies nowadays. So for me, it's very important not to open too many positions on the same currency, because also one of the most common mistake that forex trader they do is to open different position on the same asset. For example, if I buy euro dollar, it means that I'm buying euro and selling dollars. And then maybe I open a long position on the cable on the GBP USD. So it means again that I'm buying pounds, but I'm selling again dollars. And maybe if I buy gold, it means that I'm buying gold and selling dollars. So it is very important for portfolio management not to be too much long or too much short on the same asset. And this is key for portfolio management. Another thing that is crucial for portfolio management is a mixing strategy. So if we talk about Heikin Ashi, as we are doing, remember that you are using a trend follower approach. So in order to build a portfolio, you need to mix at least another strategy that is a mean reverting strategy. So, for example, trading the linear regression, for example. So, mixing a trend follower strategy with a mean reverting strategy. So, you have a good balance in your portfolio already with only two strategies.
So, the potential edge of diversification in terms of the strategy, and I mean, one kind of important point in terms of all that we're discussing here and the key insights, we both share the education mission, yourself as head of education at Swissquote and myself on behalf of IFTA, but also as part of the education committee. How can our members maybe learn more about your experience of Heikin Ashi over time?
Yeah, this is very interesting. I also thanks to you, I started to write for the IFTA newsletter a few months ago, so we can write more and more articles on the topic, because for me is very important. And then I also had the honor to be one of the sponsors of the IFTA event last year, so it is something that we can organize for the next events.
Great. And for those that would like to kind of follow your work and maybe contact, what do you recommend?
I'm present on the different social media, of course, and then I work for Swissquote. I'm managing all the education at Swissquote Bank. So swissquote.com/webinars is the page where everybody can find our webinar schedule, and of course social media like LinkedIn and Twitter to find me personally.
Thank you, Stefano. We look forward to speaking in future about some of these new methods.
Thank you, Ron. It is a pleasure to have done this video with you.
Thank you.